Hello, hello, welcome to yet another edition of the Digital Factory Show. My name is Richard Joseph, and I'm your privileged host on the show. It's good to see you all, it's good to have you all around. Wherever you're joining us, just so you know, we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. All right, I see a couple of comments already. We have one of our favorite guests on the show joining us all the way from San Antonio, Texas. Do I get that right? Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Malloy, for always gracing us with your presence. We really appreciate your consistency. Right about now, we're about to zoom into the conversation. Today, we're talking about digital education, AI, and data science. You might be thinking, what correlation does that have? But well, we have experts to let us understand if there's any correlation at all, or maybe not. We're just gonna dive in and see what these has to offer. Right before we begin, before we begin the conversation, I'm joined by amazing experts. I'm going to introduce them in a bit. Welcome once again to the Digital Factory Show. Let me just give a premise today. So the Digital Factory Show is a dialogue series produced, powered, and brought to you by Digital Times Africa, a platform for entrepreneurs, technology enthusiasts. I mean, anyone playing around the ecosystem of technology, right? Digital Times Africa provides that platform that exponentially pushes you out there and shows the world what Africa has. This dialogue series is based on the concept of surfacing objections, talking about things that helps us redefine the digital front in Africa. Introducing my first guest is Derek, who will be joining us. Oh, Derek is on the call. Derek has over 3 years experience in data science. He currently works as the data scientist with Ghana Tech Lab, improving products and services for partners, service providers, and onboarding compelling new data sets through various engagement. Derek is also the chapter lead for Omdena. Omdena is a global organization, and I'm sure Derek is going to give us more insight as to his work with Omdena. Right. Introducing next is Cecile Nutrico, who was the CEO and founder of eCampus LLC. I'm hoping that we can have Cecile join us. Right now, it's not on the call, but obviously, it will be on. Cecile is the leading authority on the use of technology for self-paced education in Ghana, and an advocate for internet as a human rights founder. And of course, like I mentioned, as the CEO of eCampus LLC. I have on the call with me Mr. Jonas Afutu. Jonas is a data scientist with over 7 years experience in the industry, IT, right? He presently serves as the head of production for Yoma, which is a video on demand streaming platform for kids, providing education, entertainment content that builds self-paced Black kids, right? Lastly on the call is Kelvin. Kelvin is a certified Google educator, level 1. He's enthused about technology and talks about everything education. Thank you very much, guests, for joining me on the call. Let us quickly see their faces. Let's see. Hi, Kelvin, welcome. Hi, Derek, welcome. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you very much. Yes,
Derek,
we
good to
can
see
hear
you.
you.
Okay, Derek, can we have your video? I think I can see your face, but
Uh,
I can see your I can see your video. But good to have you, Kelvin. How are you, Kelvin?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for having us on the
And Mr.
program.
Jonas Afutu, how are you, Jonas?
I'm also doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Jonas, for joining the call. Right before we dive into the conversation and set the ball rolling. Yeah, that's
Okay.
Derek. Good to see you, Derek. Okay, let's see what's happening on social media. Let's see what people have to say. Oh, Victor Malloy once again says he's happy to listen from San Antonio, Texas. Mr. Malloy, thanks so much. It's always a privilege and a honor to see you join us consistently. Let's move right into this, right? Guys, we are talking about data science, education, and digital education, data science, and AI. Is there a correlation to this? I mean, let's start with you, Derek. What's data science, and what correlation does this probably have to digital education?
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you very much to have me. Good afternoon to your viewers as well. Well, I think that in as much as we want to improve education, that looking at the UNESCO's UNESCO is the specialized agency with United Nations. And so far as education is concerned, education has become the foundation to build peace and then even drive sustainable development. So sector by sector, since we are looking at the Agenda 2030, of which education is also part of it, we are looking at how through the 17 goals we can elevate poverty and then be able to enhance people's life as well as equity in that sort. So, so far as there are, means to do that, and there are opportunities like using AI or any sort of technology that is advanced to get us engaged in achieving these goals. That is the most important thing. So, of course, there is some sort of engagement and then correlation in there.
Okay, it's good to know I'm not exactly mad, right? At least we have some correlation in there. So I mean, when we were planning this conversation, like digital education, AI, data science, how do they all fit, and how does data science actually fit into digital education and all of those? But it's good to know that they have some level of correlation. Derek, before we continue, let me just give like a brief introduction to this, right? We all know that education is the backbone of every enabled society. Any society that performs well, I mean, education actually has the topmost role to play, right? It particularly determines the state and the pace of ecosystem which are thriving, right? And we can vividly say or know that Africa has a thriving population of youths, right? So it all behoves on us to really emphasize on the role of education. And with the shift the dynamic the pandemic has brought, right, to Africa, we need to assess: are we really ready for the next phase of digital education? What can we do? What data set can, I mean, you're talking about data science, right? What data set can we examine? What would be the role of artificial intelligence in making sure that we can move this forward or improve the digital education space in Africa, right? So first and foremost, let me throw an open question. Any one of you can pick this and along with it, right? How has digitalization, right, shaped the dynamic of education delivery in Africa? Who would like to go first? Would you like to go, Derek, or should I start with you, Jonas?
I can go first.
Okay, Jonas, let's hear you.
So first, it's important to understand that technology as a whole is more or less a driver, okay, and that it does not in any way replace education or any form of endeavor in life. Having an understanding of that will help you know that when it comes to education, in the current form, in the current state we are in now, the only way for any civilized society to develop, like Derek said earlier on, it being one of the SDGs on UNESCO as a driver for development and all that. You need to understand that there is no way you can develop any educational system or any
system at all without having or using technology to drive those those aspects of education.
Yeah.
And so it has already played a role in so many ways, in banking, in economics, in music, in entertainment, and as well as education, as we are discussing at the moment. So for Africa, one of the major ways that technology or digitization as a whole has influenced our education in Africa is being able to provide or give us access to education, right? If you look at traditional education, you definitely have to go to class, meet face to face with your lecturer or your teacher to actually get access to education. But with digitalization, you don't need that. It eliminates the need for that physical contact all of the time. And so you can just be at home and you get education. Like we're doing right now, people right now listening to us and they're also part of this conversation, but they are not here with us. And so that is one way digitalization has actually changed our education system and how it continues to grow and how it continues to improve our education system in Africa.
Interesting contribution. Thank you so much, Jonas. That was fantastic. I have a lot of follow-up questions to throw into that, but I would like to hear what Derek and Calvin have to say as to what digitalization has actually brought to Africa on the front of education.
Okay, so shall I proceed to
Yeah, you
talk?
can go along. Go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, would want to understand the difference between digitization and digitalization. Okay, so digitization, as we all know, just to convert data into information, and then digitalization is more of the business aspect or more of like transformation. So let's say if you want to transform education, okay, you should like there are tools there that would help you to like give personalized experiences to students so that it improves the outcome of student delivery. There's there are programs and then the courses that they are offering in school. So yeah, yeah. So this is my input.
Thank you so much, Calvin. Derek, would you like to contribute to this?
Well, yes. What I would also say is that I think, like Jonas said, we are looking at the drivers that will enhance how we can strengthen the capacity of education. And looking at the moment, we are looking at, I mean, if you are looking at how well this can be achieved, then that has to do with also expanding infrastructure. The current state of education that we have in our country, or maybe in an African continent, may look maybe a bit different from where others may have, because for them, these tools were mostly developed and well enhanced already. We didn't need only the pandemic to, accelerate that. There were already some sort of, approach to how those can also be embedded into that. Unfortunately for us here, because we didn't have so much infrastructure to support that, so what has happened is that the COVID has actually paved way for us to now sort of move into that aspect. And as Calvin mentioned, the digitalization will help us to convert what is already existing in the face-to-face and all other means of learning and teaching. But then what will be left out is how do we also make sure that we are doing this as a business, not just people building platforms that, hey, come on it, we can study here. How do we also make sure that our other players who can be involved in making this to thrive over time is what we are has to be done now. And like I mentioned, those will need some sort of robust infrastructure to do that. So even though there are a lot of examples to how certain countries in Africa, including Kenya and South Africa, have engaged in, having multiples of e-learning platforms for their kids from the very early stage to maybe the higher education to study. We don't have, or it's not across all African countries like that. And that is where we need to, take a deeper look at, because so far as achieving that goal in the SDG is concerned, it doesn't necessarily need that we need to wait until everyone is set before we can do that. We obviously have to start working, and that is where it's good that we have engagements like this so that we get stakeholders to be, working on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Derek, for that exciting input. But I have a quick one to follow up, right? Before we continue into the major part of this conversation, right? Let's understand what data science is and what AI is, right? And then we can then tie this into how it fits the educational system, if it can either contribute or not, right? So let's hear from you, Derek. What's AI? What's data science?
Okay. What I would say about AI, some time back, this was just a conference of scientists who met at that's not college then, and that's where the term AI actually came about. The idea was to be able to build machines that have the a lot of support from the the human brain of thinking or doing things. And so the whole emphasis has been on addressing challenges with how the machines can also be left on their own to provide some sort of augmented support to the human. I mean, I don't want to come with the idea that AI is here to come and overtake somebody from his job and all that. But so far as so far as it is about providing the support to aid human in doing their job, that is one fantastic way to get things done. In doing this, one of the things that has happened over the years, and that is so good, has been the fact that we've been able to have a lot of platforms made available that help us to communicate, to have things doing easily. And because of that, those support has given us an opportunity to collect a lot of data about people. So for example, we are on this call because at the end of the day we can get the video of it and then maybe analyze what the comments others were sharing, their experiences, all the reviews that come out of it. When we are able to gather this, then we can use a process to gain some insight and then make decisions with it. That is when the data science process comes in. So by and by, technology sort of way to improve the way we do our things. I wouldn't want to also say that the technology has just become a tool. No, it is not, because at the end of the day, the process that will be involved in designing the solution that best fits for somebody to say that I feel comfortable studying online than going to the classroom is based on a lot of inputs. The design, the algorithms that goes into it, the kind of information that this person can have access to, and in which medium can all this be accessed are all practically important part of how we can work. We can use AI and data science to work. So that's my view on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. I think you cover it. Mind you, Derek is I like to call Derek Kwame Einstein. He very much looks like Einstein. So that is the Einstein of our time, Mr. Derek. There. Let's have your contribution, Jonas, and then we will further delve down to how AI and data science can actually provide augmented support, just like Derek mentioned, to the educational delivery in Africa.
Okay, so as Derek mentioned, the field of AI and data science, and it's hard to have an artificial intelligence system without data. And the data science process, obviously, as the name suggests, data science, there's no science without the data, or there's no data science without data. So I would say that data science is the process by which we harness data, try to understand the data, and use the data to make informed decisions in any endeavor in life. It could be in business, it could be in education, it could be in health, it could be in anything. Once there is data, there is a window of opportunity to provide a solution based on the data that you've collected. And artificial intelligence in this same case, although not completely different from data science, but I would say artificial intelligence is like the end goal of the data you've collected. And so whilst data science is going through the process of getting data, cleaning the data, understanding the data, using the data to make informed decision, artificial intelligence is the end goal, or happens to be the action that takes place as a result of the data that you have collected. And in most cases, artificial intelligence provides a form of automation and prediction at the end of everything all. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. That's a lot of information to scribble down. I hope I don't get missing along the way. Mind if you're just joining us, you're watching Digital Factory Live Dialogue Series, brought to you by Digital Times Africa. My name is Richard Joseph, and I'm your privileged host. On today's conversation, we are discussing, or we are looking into ways we can upscale Africa's digital education delivery, right? Or Africa's educational delivery. So it's like we are moving the next step. So how can we implement digital or use digital AI or data science to augment? I like that word. Derek, thank you for it. To augment the delivery of education in our schools in Africa, right? Thank you so much for joining us. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, and what else? I think YouTube. Yeah, that's right. You're live on YouTube. Okay. This is a bit dicey, but I mean, hearing all you guys had to say regarding data science, augmenting delivery, or making informed decision, being the end goal, and all of those. My question right now would be, how has AI or data science so far, right, if affected the educational system in Africa? From where I sit, we don't really see any much improvement. Yes, the pandemic has made a shift in the dynamics, and we have been forced to match up to the use of tools and services, right, with digital platform. But what can be done to better this, or what has been the difference so far? You guys sit in the space, you probably understand this data, you analyze it so well. Kwame Einstein's hair alone is enough data to harness. So, what has been the role of AI and data science, or what role will it play in redefining Africa's educational delivery? Who would like to go first?
Okay, so let's look at it this way. I think in many of my conversation with people, I have been talking about the fact that we need to, try as much as possible to have things done the horizontal way. And that is because, when the internet came about 50 years ago, or more than that, and then about the spreadsheet also, when we're adopting both of these, many of our efforts were just about, let's relegate this to the IT department. So obviously, we were so quick to create, some departments within every organization, trying to say that, when it comes to the internet, we should have the IT department to handle it for that. And so currently, we still have people working in organizations who don't even understand how to connect to the internet. Same way when it comes to spreadsheets, it's dead. And I tell you that even as of today, we still have, companies that are working and people in the organization don't know how to use spreadsheets also. Now, once that becomes the way, then it's obvious that we're also going to, be adopting new technologies that way. So you have, so many people talking to you, and it's just about, you're talking about data science, talking about AI. I think that is for certain people, and so they should be able to understand it. As myself and Jonas have been saying, it's the data that we are interested in gaining insight from so that we can make informed decisions. And even every day of our lives, we all take a lot of decisions. Of course, when things happen on the media, we are too quick to say things about them without taking any recourse to, find out how it was done, because mostly it's general hypothesis that we tend to see. And, hypothesis without any proof is a very wrong thing. What we should be doing, or what the UNESCO guys have been trying to do, I mean, there was a joint collaboration that was done on a way that, we should try to facilitate this. And I think they did a very good job by trying to understand the state of most of the member countries, how their way of, embracing technology or digitization in its own context has been. And so there's actually a framework on guiding us on how, we should be willing to adopt, AI in a context that can help education. And of course, like I said, there are already some, countries in Africa that have embraced a way to allow some of these technology to be used in, getting their students to study. The advanced countries like, China and the US, when you take China, for instance, I think in 2016, there was actually a directive from their Ministry of Education that every, education setup in their district or everywhere should have at least 8% of their budget allocated to digitization. And this tend to support, what can be done at the end of the day, because I think, Richard, you agree with me that we all see on the social media sometimes how people are trying to learn, using keyboard and made on tables and all of that. With this, we can't just move away from this and say that tomorrow we have instead an AI, solution that we are bringing to, come across board and then come and help us with all of this. Our current state matters, and that is why I said that the framework being adopted by UNESCO is a good way for all of us to, shape the conversation going forward. At the moment, we are not seeing much of that. Like, where is AI, solution being adopted in our education system? But there are some few schools that are, doing that around. I think our Cecil's e-campus is one of the two that we can all be proud of as Ghanaians that it started something like that. I know Jonas also has been in this conversation, so we can really talk about some of the practical things that are being done in this way. We don't have a nationalistic agenda at the moment towards that, though, but I think individually we are making waves, and I think that is where we should be looking at. I also like the fact that people like Kelvin has a lot of material that have been developed on advanced platforms like EDX and Udacity that others can also access them. Going forward, this will also help us, in building our own infrastructure. And I think at a point we may all come to the fact that we've done very amazingly well. That is how it should be going, and that's how it is. Thank you.
Wow. You really had to mention the part where people train using DEX. Very, 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 very insightful. And talking about nationalistic agenda, we can look at the Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement, or excuse me to say whatever that thing is called, right? Does it, the nationalistic agenda, does it allow for the push of education resources? Jonas, have you really? Yeah, this is scientists. You guys do data, right? Have you guys seen the agreement? Is there a place for education in that? Is there a place that helps redefine the delivery of education or upscale it? Can we just? I know it's a caveat, but let's talk about this. We're talking about Africa in general, right?
I wouldn't say that I have seen or come across any type of document or any instruction that says there is a place for artificial intelligence in our education system.
I mean, not just artificial intelligence.
Right.
Let's talk about education in general. Does that agreement? We're talking about trade here. We're talking about education, and we know that economies thrive on education, like the education of the citizenry, right? So if you're looking at trade, and there is no way that trade is impacting education, are we moving forward as a nation? And this is on the point where Derek spoke about the nationalistic agenda, right? AU, speaking about the African Union. Is there a thing like that on that agreement? I mean, I personally haven't seen the entire agreement or gotten into it, but data scientists, yeah, I mean, they can tell us something.
And that's what I'm saying. I haven't seen or heard, but that is not to say that there isn't some type of, let me say, quote unquote, initiative, right? But then I think it would be more generalistic to say that they have an initiative for that in terms of African Continental Free Trade Agreement, in terms of technology as a whole, as opposed to AI or data science. I mean, Derek is in the field, and Derek, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any such thing that specifically states AI or artificial intelligence in the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. If there were, we should have heard about it. So forgive me though, but like I said, forgive me if I'm wrong. If there is, kindly correct me, because I haven't heard anything as such.
Interesting. Let's talk about the use of advanced tool. I have a couple of questions down there, but I really need to write on this conversation right now. Right, the use of advanced tool. We can see increasingly that Africans generally, we utilize. I mean, the likes of YouTube for learning. I'm sure even Kelvin, Jonas, Derek, even you would agree that we, apart from eCampus, who's doing a great job on the African continent, right? Most of the learning we do that we utilize or we learn online or utilizing the digital tools, right? These are from advanced institutions, so people who have built advanced infrastructure. Derek, in your earlier submission, you talked about the infrastructure, which is not really providing that avenue for such build-up to come, right? Right. So, talking about advanced platform, are Africans really utilizing advanced platform or not? And are we building anyone apart from eCampus in-house or on the African continent to help upscale Africa?
Yeah, I think Kelvin should start this because he has.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Kelvin. This conversation is actually targeted to Kelvin.
Okay, Derek. Okay, so okay, a lot of people have ideas, and then these ideas haven't been like seen or like heard. Okay, because the environment itself isn't creating the platform for people to like come up with things that they have in their mind. So tangible things like an app or a software or a system or an architecture for us to be able to build educational platforms, online platforms. So you notice that personally, I'm also working on an app for like education, and then for me, I'm trying to get people who are like who have like are skilled in particular areas to come on board. Yeah, but should we? Yeah, I think the architecture, okay, and then the system is not yet like it might be there, but I'm not certain if it's actually ready. Okay, and that's why most of us rely on foreign like YouTube, Udemy, Coursera, edX, and the likes to learn from this platform. So for the African youth or African child, I think most of them, all of us, everyone have great ideas, but the system is not actually, let's say, should I say, right, or it's not yet in place. Okay.
When you speak about architecture, help us understand what are you referring to?
Okay, so something like internet. Okay, so you could see when doing some Zoom meetings and then teaching online, you see that the internet gets disrupted, and then the person goes off, the person comes in, and then we have cloud computing, where like you see cloud computing storing things in the cloud, retrieving data, sending data, and these things require like computational power. Okay, very high, like CPUs, and then I don't know, yeah, CPUs, but maybe there might be a better term for the CPU because these ones are very powerful. So if you have these kind of systems there in place, okay, not only the system but the maintenance is like we need maintenance culture to so then to maintain the systems or architecture. Okay, and these are very expensive. If you have the funds to like work on these maintenance, like maintaining the system or the architecture, that's good. But the funding too is another issue. And yeah, so I think this okay.
All right, thank you. We are fortunate to be joined by Cecile, who is the CEO and founder of eCampus LLC, Limited Liabilities Company. Thanks for joining us, Cecile. I would like to see your face. I'd like to turn on your mic. We're talking about upscaling Africa digital education delivery, and you're right on the forefront of it. Sorry to bring you on the spot like this, but it's always good to have you on the call, right? Kelvin is talking about infrastructure. And Derek spoke about infrastructure architecture. I'm thinking, how have you managed to build yours? How does it work for you so far? Share your story with us.
Okay, so if I understand you, you were talking about infrastructure in what context? Because I'm on the move on my phone, so help me so I can be useful. If you can come again with the
Okay, so the
question,
context
please.
here is we're talking about digital education and how this is delivered, and we're looking at most people actually look out to the international established organizations to learn from, right? The likes of Udemy, the likes of EDX, and so many others, right? That's largely because infrastructure does not support Africans to build theirs, right? Or the architecture in Africa does not really help the African youth or the African investors or the African entrepreneurs who have these ideas to build something amazing on this front. But you've managed to build something, eCampus, right? How have you managed to do this, regardless of the issues surrounding the African ecosystem or continent?
Oh, okay. I hear you now. Uh, so I think you need that small. I started from diskettes in 2003 using Microsoft. Microsoft, you can make it very interactive, create all the UI and thing, and then they can answer their questions, submit, and then see whether they've passed or they failed based on what topics. And at the time, diskettes were not that expensive. You could into the desktop in an internet cafe to demo what you've done. And we're actually selling the past questions on the diskettes of internet cafes and to remedial school students. So we didn't need a cloud at the time. We didn't need all this fancy infrastructure, but we're able to demonstrate that if you automate the past questions, it will be more engaging. It will give you more insight and intelligence on student performance than if they have to be shading or using their foam boards with the foam and soapy water that we were using those days. So that's how, and from there, we had to move to web, and then we moved to PHP, start doing the web-based one, start playing with some open source tools to see how we can integrate. And then gradually we started getting notice and investors started paying attention to us. And today we can afford AWS to host our infrastructure and all. Also helps you learn along the way. Most of your assumptions, you realize that they'll be 80% wrong. So imagine you start at that large scale and you go 80% wrong. That's too painful. But at least if you start on a small scale and you even go 90% wrong, you can easily bounce back. So my take on that is with the little resource you have around you and demonstrate that you can do it, demonstrate an MVP, minimum viable product that can provide the benefit to you, then others will pay attention to you over time. And you start getting the help you need, enough help to get to where we start small.
Okay, Cecile, thank you so much. These are some of the challenges you're talking about, right? At some point we couldn't really hear you clearly, but if I got what you said right, you spoke about people having too big goals, and when starting, some of the assumptions could be like 80% wrong, so that when they fail, it becomes like a big blow. And you advise that they could start small with little resources, like you did in 2003 with diskettes, right? Unfortunately, talking about infrastructure, the internet is not really helping us, so we can hear you. We understand you're on the go. But hopefully, things like this will improve, and we want to see the likes of the service providers also improve their service delivery, so that we can upscale digital education to all stakeholders, right? And we have a few comments on YouTube. And Victor Adepoju says, how do we get politicians to drive it at national and regional levels rather than young people embracing these in silos? He was enthused that the UAE had a minister for AI. Interesting. Oh, do you know? Have a minister for actually? Wow, that's cool. Thank you for bringing this to our notice, Victor. I really didn't know that UAE has a minister for AI. I'm very much happy to hear that contribution. Talking about Cecile's contribution and in 2003 selling diskettes, I'm wondering, Cecile, pardon me. At that time, how many students had access to computers and diskettes? Even right now, we have a growing number of a growing population of youths who do not still know how to even turn on a computer. And in 2003, you were selling past questions in diskettes. I mean, how? Were you testing an assumption then, or it was really working? Cecile, can you hear me? Oh my God. Well, I'm looking forward to bringing Cecile to answer the question sometime on this call. Well, let's continue. Right. Derek and Jonas is joining us, and Kelvin is also here. Right. I'm looking at this point of view, right? How can we as startups or businesses or entrepreneurs, right, leverage on digital science, or data science rather, artificial intelligence or digital tools and services, right, to upscale or build solutions for digital solutions inclined to education for Africa, right? And this is off the point where Cecile talked about starting small. I mean, I know Kelvin is doing something in that respect where he trains kids online. I mean, he has a couple of courses, if I remember correctly, which I saw last year that won an award, right? Training kids on, is it EDX? Or how do we as entrepreneurs like leverage on AI data science to build solutions inclined to help upscale the educational delivery in Africa? Derek, let's start with you.
Okay,
Okay.
so um, uh, firstly, what you should do is we need. Am I clear enough? Am I clear enough?
Yeah, you are loud and clear. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. So we should have we should always have like an educational aspect in the pipeline. So when you're creating AI systems for something like health, okay, you need someone, a doctor or an expert in the field of health to be part in that's the process, like the AI pipeline process, so that you don't have like negative influences. Okay, but these things require a lot because you don't need only one person, you need a whole lot. So it's a collaborative effort from all these parties to make sure like entrepreneurs in the field of technology, the field of like we have innovators, business people who have ideas in what education. So this focus on education. So we need all these minds. Okay, then we need to come up with like a pipeline so that everyone knows what each and everyone's role is. Okay, you know which each and everyone knows what he or she is doing or contributing to the AI. or to the creation of the platform or like the educational system. If we have this in place, I think we should have good AI systems. Okay, and then also these systems are expensive. So let's say the cloud computing, as I mentioned earlier, they are very expensive. So just as Cecil said, when he started small, but now they are able to afford AWS. Okay, so if you are a startup, you might want to start small, just as Cecil said, and then you might want to not, you might want to just start with free services, but make sure your data and everything is protected. And then you should make sure you use services that are actually giving you, or they are in line, their values or their what they cherish. Okay, it's in line with your vision. If it's not in line with your vision, then I'm not sure you are going to get value for money. Yeah. So I think and I'm also looking at, let's say, because somewhere like Africa like this, if you want an AI system for education, I think it should be available offline. So we need offline capabilities for these AI systems so that people in the village, people in remote areas can have access to education. So instead of internet, okay, some people use the USSD system because you don't pay, so you can just dial some star these short codes, and then it can give you some information and things. Okay, this has the whole system on its own, and then it would you need to work with telcos to come up with this system. Okay, so that's my input.
Thank you so much, Kelvin. I like the last part. Come up with offline capabilities to help those in remote villages or whatever. Um, Mr. Victor Malloy is saying, here is a suggestion: pivot. Mr. Victor would like to really understand what you mean by pivot in this case. What are we pivoting, or what are we pivoting, right? And you talk about plant the seeds with non-digital formats with your audience, card games, face-to-face conversation, and public discourse from current information professionals. Just so you guys know, we are open to your suggestions. I mean, participants are allowed to share comments. We're going to read them live on the call. Want to hear what you guys are thinking. How can we upscale the African educational delivery systems, right? Let's come to you, Derek. Calvin made such a great input, right? What would you have to say or contribute to this?
Okay, so I think that the attention should also be on, you know, at the end of it all, what is the goal of what we're trying to do? And for example, if you look at the African continent, we do agree that we are one continent that has less number of people who are able to, have tertiary education. And even for those who all have it, it's also another challenge of finding jobs. So in a nutshell, if you look at the current state of students who are accessing education in the classroom, you have that a lot of them are not even motivated to do it. The other thing that we can really make sure that even as we are building, as small startups trying to leverage on technology to make things accessible to everybody, we should also be looking at the TVET education, because we should be capable of offering programs that incorporate the AI related competencies that we can talk about, especially to the fact that we can produce graduates whose skills can be attuned to the changes in the labor market. And in some countries, there is some sort of lifelong learning that is more from the basic and adult. There's a lot of basic and adult literacy education. But Lifelong learning certainly includes some initiatives that some of them already there existing. If you look at what the International Labour Organization says about lifelong learning, it's about all activities undertaken throughout your life for the development of competencies and qualifications. And the International Labour Organization also argued that the renewed interest in lifelong learning is partly due to the interest by industry, which consider lifelong learning as an appropriate skill formation strategy for the new economy. If you look at countries like Germany, Singapore, they have sort of individual training account schemes that enable their citizens to have access to all sorts of education, but that is not what we have here. So like I'm saying, even as long as we are thinking about developing some of these learning platforms, we should all be about how do we make sure that it is actually developed to meet the needs of what can transform people's career. I mean, unfortunately for us in Africa, when someone says that I am changing career, that is when the person is actually changing a program of study. I mean, because one thing is that mostly after your BSc, you don't have opportunity to have a job. And if you don't have a job, and you hear people saying about, oh, I mean, this field is cool, so why don't you just go into that? And that is the next thing that a person does by what? By just trying to go and possibly offer a master's degree and then just trying to learn something in there and then see what happens. So, I mean, so the courses that we are developing, I mean, if I have a platform and I'm having a course on, painting, having a course on mechanics, having a course on, those artisans courses that, can improve on the skill set of somebody who has been in the field for over years, then I'm actually helping the person to, become much more competent in the delivery of his or her job. And I think that is where we should be considering more than just developing any sort of educational materials and then putting them on the internet. I mean, there should be specific needs for everybody. And if the needs, I can afford it, then I do. Because people shouldn't just be about, there is an MOOC platform, so I'm going to take a course there, and that is it with a certificate. Like I'm saying, it should be more of, when I'm done, how do I able to apply to the field that I find myself? And I think that we shouldn't continue being people who are taking certificates and just joining online courses, because that is where we should be doing. It should be much more of how does it apply to the job that we find ourselves in. I think when we look at that holistically, then we realize that there is a lot more challenges in driving this than what we just see it now. So it has to be goal oriented on what people are already doing and how do we make sure that we accelerate that. Because like we started, the conversation has been about, not making things look like this is something new that is coming to take something off. But this is something that should just apply so that I can now make smarter decisions and I can now make things that help me to reduce some of the costs that are associated with certain things that we are already doing. With that, then a perfect goal can be what can be achieved. I think that's my take on that. Thank you.
Okay, that's sunk in so well, and people taking certificates. The certificate part, no, Charlie. Fresh out. Jonas, talk to me. I mean, how can entrepreneurs, businesses, leverage on AI, data science? I mean, you're head of productions at Yoma, right? And this is a video on demand platform for kids. Talking about education, right? Maybe you can share more insight on how your platform is providing or promoting education in Africa, given that you're dealing with kids. And Derek spoke about something really exciting and very thoughtful, the motivation for education, right? Are we building out educational materials which are motivating enough for students to want to study? Because we have this, I don't know, you guys tell me, this chew poor whatever syndrome in Africa, where you just go learn and come and pass an exam because of certificates, quote and unquote, excuse me to say. What is Nyoma doing differently? Or what can we do differently, right, to help make sure that these kids are well educated? I mean, not that motivation, actually. Yeah.
It's funny you should say you people have triple pass in Africa, as if you are from Europe.
Right now, I'm beginning to think that actually being a professor.
Yeah, so first let me say that Yoma is a video on demand streaming platform for children. Basically, what Yoma is doing is fundamentally two things. One, trying to build the self-confidence of underrepresented children, kids. Underrepresented here would be Black kids and ethnic minorities, smaller ethnic minority groups, and also to try and expose them to other materials out there in terms of culture and in terms of education as well. And so Yoma is basically trying to bridge that gap for Black children all over the world, for them to have self-confidence in themselves, to learn and be able to pick up a few things other than what we see generally on TV. I mean, if you look in our media, I think you also experienced the same thing growing up. We didn't have a lot of children's content that was specific to Ghana or say Nigeria or say Africans per se. The Tom and Jerry's, the Daffy Duck, all the cartoons you watched growing up were all predominantly white kids.
Ben 10.
Ben 10, even right now. We can mention them all. The list goes on, right? And so that's what we are trying to do. We're trying to come up with content for children to inspire them, to make them believe in themselves. As African kids, they need something, and yeah, so that's what we're doing at Yoma. And data goes a long way in helping us to understand this. And first and foremost, the data we collect helps us to understand the process we need to go through. It helps us to enhance our processes to come up with a better content that would definitely serve the purpose of educating and building the confidence of that child. You get what I'm saying? And we do this on a day-to-day basis by interacting with our users, parents. In this case, the users will be mainly parents because kids from 0 to say 7 years old do not understand quite enough yet to provide us with the kind of data that we want. So it's incumbent on the parents to give us this data. So you watch your kids, you watch them closely, understand what they like, what they don't like, and you give us feedback. That's what we do. So we get this feedback, and it helps us to enhance the process and to improve the kind of content that we churn out to them. So in terms of data science and AI, upscaling our education in Africa, it's funny. Derek mentioned not having interest. The children don't feel like they need to learn. There's no interest there, and it's true. Particularly for a number of reasons. One being that Africans, we are not. I'd like to say something like we are not technology native, right? We are not technology native because what's the first thing that comes to mind when you want to solve a problem? It is always hands-on. If you don't see it and feel it, it's more or less like you're not getting work done. So I once worked, let me tell you a backstory. I once worked with some people in Europe a couple of months ago. And when there's an issue, the first thing I would do, even I myself, the first thing I would do is to pick up my phone and make a phone call. They would answer your call. Then I'll try and send a WhatsApp message. If he's busy, he won't respond. It happened over a couple of times, and then I was told, there's a platform called Jira. Why don't you send your issues there? If there's a ticket there, you resolve the problem from those tickets that are there, and then you put the comments and you put the results of whatever you must have gone through or what you must have done, the task you performed. It took me a while to get a hang on these things, Not because I couldn't do it, but we're not used to, we're not exposed to it. We're not exposed to these things. These tools, they're out there. We're not exposed to them to start with. Second, we don't make them. Third, we have a huge infrastructure gap that enables us to catch up with the world. The world is already moving ahead. I mean, if we're talking about data science and how we use data science and AI to improve education in Africa, the first question we need to ask ourselves is, even the AI and data science know, how many of us understand it? Somewhere in Europe, I think it's a university in Poland, they rolled out an admission for prospective students, PhD and masters. I think it was in the same group. I think Derek must have seen it. We happen to be in the same
Yeah,
group.
I saw it. I saw it.
Yeah. Thanks. In Poland, right?
Yeah, I saw it.
And they say, come and learn data science for free. Learn data science for free. I don't know if you get where I'm driving, what I'm driving
Yeah,
towards.
I think I get the
So
point.
they have understood that moving forward, if we want to improve our lives, if we want to accomplish our developmental agenda, improve our system, economic development, we need to understand the system. In doing so, we need data. And that is where the world is heading towards. But in the entire field of data science and AI, we need to understand that one first. And so they've given free admission to students who want to learn data science or artificial intelligence. So by the time they are done, they can use what they have learned to improve the system. We don't have that in Africa.
All right, Jonas, thank you so much. That's all time will allow. Digital Factory show is scheduled to stream for 1 hour, and we're just right on time. If you're just joining us, we're talking about upscaling Africa education delivery. And right before we go, or before we sign off, I'm going to take a few comments from social media. We are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Interesting stuff. I mean, I'd like to know if you guys want us to do a part 2 of this, where we can actually bring in some of these top governmental bodies, EU. Let's see how they are. It will be interesting to have them on board, but we really need to understand, is there an agenda Africa or Africa agenda to push digital adoption of educational delivery? We could go into talking about how teachers are being trained in all of those, remote infrastructure. Let's bring in the key players here. This is just a teaser for the conversation. Probably come to you live again on digital education, AI, and data science on next week. Well, let's take a few comments. Let's see what people are saying. Again, Mr. Victor Malloy say pivot and or pivot. Let me use the word pivot. And it says, imagine the solutions to opportunities, to build the capabilities to connect your communities. Okay. I think on the next call, I'll probably have Mr. Victor Malloy join us live so that we can have more insight because he has a degree of insight, right? And he continues to say that value-based approaches to encourage educators to promote the student gifts and talents, right? Value-based approaches, not degree-based, value-based. So the degree is not so much of the value, right? The value could be probably how to add or improve your society, make impact within your immediate ecosystem of society. I like to think that was what you're referring to, Mr. Victor Malloy. Organizing, planning to build stronger relationship with digital immigrants, older adults, digital natives, younger adults. Wow. That's quite interesting. It continues to say, take action each day to learn something new in order to teach it to someone else. This is very important because I personally believe that life is lived for others. Right, so whatever you do today should always at every point influence the life of the other people around you, right? And it still says pivot.
Read the question.
Oh my God, it says pivot. It says pivot. Interesting, pivot. Just my thoughts from USA to Africa. Thank you very much, Mr. Malloy. I think we'll invite you to join us on the next one. We're still going to talk about digital education, right? And let's improve the delivery of education to Africa. Yes, part 2. Let's do it. Tweet at us at Digital T Africa. Share a comment on YouTube. Talk to us on Facebook, Digital Times Africa. You can follow us on digital across social media using Digital Times Africa. Tweet at us with the hashtag Digital Times or Digital Factory. I would like to know what are your thoughts. How can we improve educational delivery in Africa. It looks like we're having a consensus to have a part two of this. I'm so excited. I'm so much excited. I'm going to talk to you about. We are going to share updates around this when they arise. Some of the key outputs from this conversation has been offline capabilities to train people in remote areas, right? Start small as an African. Maybe you might not be there yet. I mean, infrastructure does not even support you in the first place. So begin little, and then you can build. Just try to impact your society from your local industry, right? Be goal oriented in education instead. Be goal oriented, and try and build motivation and enthusiasm for education. And entrepreneurs should also think about how they can provide content, right? That builds enthusiasm and encourages people or children or African youth to learn, right? The certificate part, no. Don't chase after certificates because Derek, that was what you said, right? We shouldn't chase after certificates. We are always focused on being certified professional, certified this. Every time an African is in school, but actually we are not really doing anything on the continent. Let's get some dropouts really making impacts. We have the likes of, I don't want to mention names. Some of the big CEOs of the companies, the Fortune 500 companies, are all mostly dropouts of universities, right? But they are making impacts. So let's see that happen in Africa too. Maybe the scoop will job. All right. Thank you so much for joining Digital Factory. My name is once again Richard Joseph. We have to draw the curtain here, and we will come back to you with this conversation again on the June 10th. 2021. Yeah, I think it's June. All right. Let me quickly confirm with the production team to make sure that we are telling you the right thing, so we're not confused at the end of the day. Digital Factory will return live back on. Let's see. Almost here. Guys, talk to me. Yes, Digital Factory will be back on June 10th. It's a Thursday. Stay tuned. Don't miss it. And from here, at Digital Times Africa, we say thank you to everyone who joined the call live. We are really grateful. We appreciate your thought. We appreciate the comments. We appreciate your contribution towards making sustaining impact on African education delivery. Kabukika joined us to say, Kiki Kebik joined us to say interesting conversation. And Victor Adekoju says, great human service for modern Africa. Mother Africa. All right. Thanks again for streaming this. I have to log off. Thank you, Mr. Victor Malloy, for joining us. And Victor says, well done, guys, for the Yoma job. Wow. Congratulations, Jonas. You guys are doing a great job. That's all time can allow us. Right about now, we'll say goodbye. Follow us at Digital Times Africa if you want exciting news around technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship in Africa, right? Digital Times Africa is the place you need to be. Second to none, provide you all those insights. Anytime, any day, we cover your events. Let us know what you're doing. Let's share your insights. We promote African entrepreneurs as well. Right. Thank you so much. Like I mentioned, Digital Factory will be back on the 10th.
Thank you.
Do well to stay tuned. Thank you so much, Derek. Thank you so much, Calvin. We really appreciate you for joining us. We're really grateful. These are the amazing panelists, or should I say, guests that we brought on board to talk about digital education. Maybe next time you'll probably see them, or next time you'll see maybe Ghana's digital vice president, Naumia. We'll be excited to have him on board, but that's all time will allow us. Like I say, thank you so much. We'll catch you on the next. Bye-bye, Derek. Bye-bye, Calvin. Bye-bye, Jonas. Thank you very much. See you guys on the flip side.
Okay. All right.